us as people. You know, if I'm being rejected by somebody, what does that do to me emotionally, mentally, spiritually? How does that affect me?
Yes, it makes us feel like we're worthless.
Okay.
It makes us feel like we're failures. It makes us feel like we're not good enough. And sometimes it makes some of us lose our faith. I'm reminded of a situation between Saul and David. And, you know, Saul was coming against David, and David was running for his life. And I believe it's in the last 4 chapters of 1 Samuel, I believe it's 27 to 30. It got so bad for David that David decided to live amongst the Philistines, the enemy. So he left to seek asylum with the Philistines. Not only did he live with the Philistines, he got to a point where he was even willing to fight with the Philistines against his own people. And sometimes that's kind of symbolic of what some of us go through because of the rejection we experience. Some of us not only leave church, but some of us come against the values of the church. Because of the pain that the rejection causes. Exactly. But interestingly, you know, David was steered back in the right direction because when he was willing to fight with the Philistines rejected him. Okay. So the rejection re-ejected him back with his men to go back. Bounced around. Exactly. Okay, so God was using it. Exactly. And not only that, because he got rejected, he was able to get back in time to find out that his household, his families and the family of his men were captured. Right. So after seeking God, he also sought God, and God told him to go after the captors, and they were able to rescue their families and even get some plunder from the enemy. But had he not been rejected by the Philistines, he will have been way out of God's will, and he will not have gotten back home on time to find out what had happened to his family. So is one of the truths that might be hidden in this discussion today is that no matter what's going on, God's in control. Yes, sir. He knows what's going on, and He does use the frailty of people around us to help us. Yes, sir. That's what the book's about, right? Yes, sir. Fulfilling your destiny. Okay, what happens if I don't handle rejection properly? Wow. What are some of the negative effects that it can have on my life when I get rejected? Yes, if someone does not handle rejection properly, it could lead to depression. It could make them go out of God's will, like I mentioned with David. It could get them to a point where they are so broken and just way out of God's will, ending up in situations that they never imagined. We can end up not fulfilling God's call because God actually uses rejection to help us find our destiny. But if we don't understand that, and if we don't respond properly to that, we can end up not fulfilling what God has called us to do. You've got some great chapters in this book. As I was looking at it a while ago, one of the ones that really jumps out here is feeling it versus dealing with it. Yes, sir. Explain that to me. Yes, you know, sometimes we think we're rejected, or we feel like we're rejected when we're not actually rejected. That's important. It's important to discern whether I'm feeling rejected or I'm actually rejected. That's the first step. How do we discern the difference between the two? Well, we respond with love. Okay. You know, the mentality of love is love always thinks the best of the situation. Okay. Because sometimes when we respond with love, we take into account why we're feeling rejected. Am I feeling rejected because I had a previous experience and I feel like that's what's happening right now? Am I feeling rejected because this individual is not as personable to me as I would like them to? Because sometimes we interact with individuals that are not as personable. It doesn't mean they're rejecting us, it's just their personality. Personality, sure. If we are comfortable, or if we usually have encounters with individuals who are nice and are very affable, and you meet someone who's not like that, there's a tendency to think, oh, there's something wrong with me, or why doesn't this person like me, not knowing. But it's just a personality. Exactly. So that's important to discern whether this person really doesn't like me, or maybe it's just an experience I had in the past, or maybe it's this person's personality. Okay. Yes, sir. Dealing with it. Yes, sir. How do we deal with it? Well, in dealing with rejection, it's important for us to realize 3 things, because when we deal with rejection, there are at least 3 things we need to be mindful of. The rejection, the person who rejected us, and ourselves. Right. So basically, when we deal with rejection, there are at least 3 things we need to deal with: the rejection, the person that rejected us, and ourselves. Okay. And I believe that 1 Corinthians, I believe is 13, verse 12, talks about the 3 biggest things: faith, hope, and love. But love is the greatest. I think those 3 things help us respond to each part of those rejections. You know, I believe we should use faith to deal with ourselves, hope to deal with the rejection, and love to deal with the person who rejected us. With regard to us, usually when we get rejected, the feeling is to lose our faith, to not want to seek God anymore. But rather, the best response is to have faith in God, cry out to God, seek God for help, continue to allow our faith to rest in Him, and also have faith in ourselves because God has faith in us.
You know, that's a really, really good point.
Yes,
because how important is it for us, if we are truly being rejected, to be praying for the people that are rejecting us?
Exactly.
How important is that in the process of overcoming this, the rejection?
That's very important because the love aspect deals with the person who rejected us. And the Bible says love covers a multitude of sins. And by loving them, what I really meant was forgiving them.
Right.
Yeah. Forgiveness is necessary because when we forgive them, it positions us to make progress in life. You know, forgiveness is not about someone getting away with what they did to you.
Right.
It's about you getting away from what was done to you.
Yeah, so I just want to encourage you that if you're out there and you've experienced this rejection in the past and maybe you've just kind of pushed it down or maybe you're experiencing it right now, to follow these instructions that Brother O.J. are giving us. Pray for those people and let God bring a healing into your life. That prayer line is right there. We're here to pray with you about that. And as we're going to continue to talk about this, one of the things that you have in here also is that it's not a setback, it's a setup.
Yes, sir.
Explain that to me.
Well, Joseph is a prime example of this premise. You know, God, he had a dream, of course, and God had a plan for his life. He had a purpose. And his brothers rejected him, you know. And it looked like a setback. But they sold him to slavery in Egypt. And they were like, let's see what become of his dreams. But little did they know that they were actually setting him up by setting him back. They were setting him up for his destiny. By rejecting him, he ends up in Egypt, the exact environment where he was supposed to fulfill his destiny. So he